I think we should be ready to go.
Okay.
Right, man. So, Gary Jibo Williams.
Yeah, yeah,
That
that's
was,
me.
but that's, but not anymore, right? You don't go by that
No,
anymore.
no, I don't go by Jibo no more. But if anyone that knows me from before calls me Jibo, I will just speak to them normally. I would say, oh, don't call me that no more. But I would never introduce myself, somebody new, and say, oh, I'm Jibo. I would
Uh,
always say I'm Gary.
but where did that come from? What does that stand for?
Basically, when I was young, yeah, we used to have these videos called Friday and Next Friday. Have you seen them? With Ice Cube
Oh,
and
like the rap videos.
yeah, yeah. There wasn't rap videos. It was just like old school in the hood ghetto videos. And there was this guy in there named Debo, and he used to always knock people out.
Oh,
So that's why I became Jibo, because when I used to hit people, I used to always knock them out as well. When I was young, I used to always hit people and always just roll over.
damn. So, but before we start, how would you even introduce yourself? Because I got to know you through the video that you did with Get to Know, the
Oh,
one that
okay.
came out on YouTube, and also the Channel 4 show. Congratulations, by the way. That's
Yeah, thank you. Okay,
and
thank you.
because Chet, I've been following Chet for a long time, and
Yeah,
he's in the show, and then he posted about it, and then I got to know you, and I find your story really interesting, and then the whole because you started in the whole started quite young, and
yeah.
in the video that you did, you said at 15 was the first time you went to prison,
Yeah, that was the first I went to prison, 15, yeah.
and that was a knife crime.
Yeah, it was like a multiple one, yeah. Like it was like a group of people fighting each other. They'd say it's gangs, but it wasn't gangs. It was just a group of people, and a lot of people got injured that day. About four.
But wait, when we take this back, how did this all begin for you? Because you said in the video that you did that you were with your mother. She was a single
Yeah,
mother at the time, and you were separated from your father.
yeah,
And you said your childhood had a lot to do with how you got introduced into this whole gang scene.
that's right. My childhood is what basically set me up for my whole of my teenage years and all my delinquent behavior because I had a delinquent lifestyle at home.
But what
I
what
was
what what was the problem at home? What was going on? If you don't mind talking about it.
no, mind. I'm open book me. So basically, when I was born obviously to my mum and my dad, and my mum at the time was already kind of like had a traumatic childhood herself. She's had the things through her own childhood has gone on, and basically by that time I was born, my mum was already involved in prostitution. So, and imagine how young she was at that time. You know, she was probably 18 when I was born. So you see, her life was a mess as well. So I was born into a chaotic lifestyle. And then my dad was a drug addict. So as you can imagine, them two together was obviously fireworks. But I don't remember any like kind of um, incidents between my mum and dad because he was very young, and my dad didn't really do nothing to my mum like that per se. He was more just an absent father. So by the time I was 2, my dad's left my mum. So my mum's just like a single mum. She's obviously got all her problems, and I live with her, and I'm exposed to everything that my mum is going through in her life. In terms of like things like I used to see my mum get battered and beaten to the point of they take her to hospital and they hold me back from going to see my mum for days. And then when I go and see my mum, she's absolutely battered. Looks like she's been, I don't know, like not total different person. She would say things to me like, oh, she's been in a car crash. But I know she hasn't been in a car crash. I know what's happened because I was in the house. I heard it. And imagine being young and vulnerable. You can't even do nothing about that because you're just too young. So you grow up angry and you're charged up because of what you're witnessing at home. So that's just like a little tip of the iceberg.
And this was from the guys that were coming in, or
Yeah, the guys that would come to my mum. So my mum would meet men, and the kind of men that my mum would be meeting would be the kind of men that are involved in these pimps and prostitution and stuff like that. And it was part and parcel of the lifestyle. They used to beat up the women, take their money, or make them do things they didn't want to do. I can't know the details of why, but I can only see the actual attributes of it all. I'm only seeing the physicality of everything. I didn't really understand the mentality of it all when I was young, and that also contributed to why I was very angry. I've been exposed to bad things, like just a lot. Like there could be like when I was young, there'd be like pretty girls that would come to my house. They'd obviously be there because they're gonna go to work and stuff. They would look beautiful. Imagine I'm young, and they would look like people off the TV. They would look that glamorous and that beautiful, and they would talk to me. They'd be so nice to me, and like they would give me stuff. But then imagine I could go home, and then in the night I could hear them being battered, like absolutely sounds like they're being killed, and then they'd have to come and sleep in my room.
And all this happened in your home. This
All
is
this
what.
happened in my home
Oh,
where I
that's
lived, where I
so.
was
So it was kind of
day to
like
day life.
a,
My life
a
was just
brothel
like a horror
situation.
movie. It was like a brothel situation, but that wasn't really happening so much in my house. The brothel, it's more like that's where the women used to stay and go out from there to the brothels. But imagine, so that's where all the violence is going to take place. It's going to take place at my house, isn't it? Because that's where they're going to come across their issues with the men that they're involved in, including my mum.
Gary, before we go on, do you mind turning your camera around to the side? It might flip your picture around. Maybe turn off the.
Turn off the what? I'm not very good at technology.
the rotation thing, so that the video.
Turn it off.
And then try flipping it. Oop, now you just flip the camera the other way.
That way. Maybe I need to press this button up here.
It's all right if it's too messy. Just leave it as it is. It's good.
I keep pressing them.
It's okay. But so how old were you when you were seeing all the stuff?
So that stuff that I started to see where the women coming out, that was when I was after 7, because once I got to 7 and 8, my mum moved me to London from Wolverhampton. She was running away from her problems. It was a swift move. It was one of those kind of things where I'm in my bedroom, my mum comes running to my room and says, "Quick, Harry, we've got to go. And just like that, we went. We just took the TV, went to London. And then when I got to London, I think that's where things got progressively worse for me, because my mum was from Wolverhampton, so she's moved to London, which is a big city. She's now probably in a situation where she can orchestrate opportunity, if you're going to call it that, for these other people that's coming from Wolverhampton. So they're coming from Wolverhampton and staying at our house and then going off to work. So it's like our house was like the stop shop, basically, for this kind of activity. And obviously these kind of things just progressively got worse. Like, the kind of men that would be involved as well, they'd hide things at the house. So I'd find guns in the house and stuff like that from the age of 9 and 10, find them, take them outside, mess with them, try to smash open the bullets before I'd start to shoot them. So as you can imagine, all that altered the way that I perceived my life. Because I didn't actually know that my life was that bad. I just knew that it was a bad life. I didn't able to weigh against anybody else's because I didn't have strong connections to no one. Didn't have strong family connections.
Did you have any brothers and sisters, or?
No, my mum had my sister when I was more like 15, 16 when I've left London. I had younger siblings, but they were with my dad. And as you know, my dad was an absent dad, so I didn't really see my siblings. So literally it was just me.
When did you then sort of meet your dad again?
So I've always seen my dad. So when I used to live in London, I'd go back to Wolverhampton and stay for a few days. So if I'd see my dad in between that time, like if I see him walking around and stuff. So he's been available to be seen, but he's just not mentally available to be a father or to be responsible. Like when I was 8 years old, for the first time, I ran away all the way from London to Wolverhampton on myself. Made it, woke up in the morning, stole money, planned my route, and ran to Wolverhampton. And I did this 3 different times by the age I was 10. And I ran away to different people's houses at the time, like different family members, including my dad. And the last time, my dad did keep me, but he made me stay at my sister's mum's house. And I went back to school and everything back in Wolverhampton. But what it was is my dad was still absent. He wasn't really in the house that much. And I got ill. I got this, it was like, they thought it was Quins, but what it was tonsillitis, and it expanded all my glands around here. So my mum came and took me to the children's hospital back in London, and I kind of ended up staying back with my mum then, because the thing with my mum, as much as she didn't really look after me lovingly and all that stuff, I did get a lot of material things. So I had everything and everything you could imagine as a child. Like, and then when I was with my dad, I didn't have those things, and I didn't have the love and the comfort from him neither. So it wasn't really much I was missing. So I kind of went back to my mum once I was 9 then.
And so you wanted to run away from London because things were just too crazy at home.
It was that bad. My life was a mess. Like I said, I couldn't cope with it all. I used to just think like this. I used to think, my mum can't be my mum, because if she was my mum, she wouldn't do the things that she's doing to me. Like who would do that? Then I used to think, my dad can't be my dad, because why would he leave me with my mum?
Yeah.
So I built this narrative in my brain that none of them were my family, that somehow they found me somewhere, and that I'm different to all of them.
Isn't it? It's crazy, right? As a kid, when you see these insane things around you, and you have to make these stories to sort of make sense of it, to sort of understand, okay, this is why things are the way they are, because I can make a story about it in my head.
Yeah, like, look, I've got goose pimples now, because what it was, yeah, I tell you what saved this. All these things saved me. I didn't know at the time, but as I've grown older and I'd interviewed with psychologists and things like that, they've said that I protected myself by creating an alternative reality.
For sure.
And what happened is, when I was about 11, this is the strongest moment of my life. On reflection, when I look back, my mum was, I don't know, I was probably hitting me or something in the house. I ran out the house. And when I ran out the house, I was crying. And when I was young, I used to somehow think I could stop the rain. Like, I used to think, oh, I could stop the rain, walking around doing these mad noises, yeah? But this particular day, it was raining, and I was trying to stop the rain, but then suddenly I was asking these questions to myself. Why am I always going through this? Like, why? Like, I was asking God, yeah? And out of nowhere, I heard this voice, and it went, I know why. But it was almost like comically. I know why. It's because Jesus is checking you. It's to see if you're strong enough, because when you're older, you're going to be the leader, and to be the leader, you've got to be strong. And it's like something in my brain clicked at that point to say, I've got to be strong. I've got to win. I've got to get through it. So no matter what came into my life from that day on, it couldn't defeat me. It couldn't beat me. Nothing could get me. It's like everything that I came across, it was just something for me to get past. But what happened was, I was stuck in the streets. I was stuck in urban lifestyle, stuck in trauma. So the things I'm coming across become violent, because that's the way I got to get across it, because that's what I'm surrounded by. And then through all my processes from that age, although I had a very difficult relationship with God, I really hated God when I was young, to be fair, because I thought he's doing everything to me. But I had this thing inside that also said that I'm strong enough to get through everything. And now at this point in my life where I am now, I'm thankful and grateful that I had the resilience, yeah, and the emotional capacity to get through what I've got through, because now I'm able to do what I do now in terms of the work, the way I can empathize with people, the way I can truly understand what it's like to be there, and I can truly understand what it's like to get through it. So I truly have something to give back to people right now. And that's all because God, in the beginning, gave me the resilience to get through it all.
And talking
So it's
about
like, now I have it.
and talking about resilience, you, when I was listening to your story, if people don't know, you went to prison for the first time when you were 15, and then
Yeah.
you just kept going back and back, and just when you thought that you were out, even when you were trying to reform yourself and get better, it just, the cycle just kept repeating and repeating and repeating. Like every time you say that you got out, during when I was listening to the story, and I thought, okay, now he's out, now begins the journey of reformation, then you just end up back in prison again. And but you still kept going, and you managed to break that cycle somehow. And that, I think, is a very, very powerful story. And a lot of people just remain a part of that cycle, and it just keeps going on and on, right?
I know, and the thing is, yeah, it's about 7 years ago now, yeah, that I had like an epiphany where I really felt connected to God and to my true self, yeah. And ever since then, it's like I've constantly been able to use reflection. I've been constantly able to look back at myself now and look what I've able to get through. Like you said, a lot of people just can't do it, yeah. And the only way I could do that is because God gave me the resilience, because I haven't been able to pick it up from no one. I don't know anybody else. I don't have family empowerment from when I was young. I do now. I have good relationships with family members now. I've really built solid relationships with my family now. as I grew older, because I understood that they were also suffering. When I needed them to help me, they weren't mentally able to do that.
Yeah.
So I was able to forgive again, that resilience and that mindset. Instead of me carrying hate, instead of me carrying all these things, I've never hated anybody, even when I was involved in beef, and I never hated anybody. I never really got that angry. I just felt that what I was doing, I had to do. I didn't understand there was an alternative option before.
So let's go to the first time you actually the crimes caught up to you, so to say. You were involved in this kind of stuff since very, very young, before you were 10, like you were around guns and prostitution, drugs and all this stuff. But 15, what happened when you were 15? The first time you actually got exposed to the
Yeah, so me and my friends and some cousins, we went out to like a party.
This was in London or Wolverhampton?
No, I was in Wolverhampton. I moved back to Wolverhampton when I was 14.
Yeah.
So I was 15 now, and we've gone to like this party. I think it was like in the city centre. At the time, we're all kind of young, so we're not really supposed to be drinking at that time. So what we are, we're all drinking. We're out there. We're just getting loud and just having a good time, basically. And one of my cousins got into a fight with some random people. So we all started fighting, kind of like had a big, quick scrap in town kind of thing. And then we left the city centre kind of thing. But where we left, on the road we went on to, my cousin lived on that road. But I think this road happened to be the same road that these people probably had to go past to go home. But at the time, it didn't look like that. At the time, it looked like they was coming back to us on this main road, which unfortunately was a road where exactly my cousins lived. So a number of people ran into the house, grabbed weapons like meat cleavers, knives, all the things out of the kitchen, basically. It wasn't like weapons you had stashed. It was literally ran into the kitchen and grabbed whatever could be grabbed out of the kitchen, and literally went outside and just chopped and stabbed everybody that was in the way.
And are we talking injuries, or did people die?
No one didn't die, but people got chopped in the head, in the face, in the back.
And these are kids 14, 13, 15?
Nah, they was older, to be fair. At the time, they was probably about 18, 19, because it was at a night, like by a club, you see. So they was a little bit older, but still not, there wasn't much older. It doesn't make a difference, to be fair. There wasn't much older. It was all a young kind of group.
And so then you and your friends got charged for that? But
yeah,
you were still juvenile, so...
Yeah, we all got arrested, and then we got charged under the laws of joint enterprise, all back together. So for 6-7 of us went to prison. We all went in together on remand. But bit by bit, different ones was getting bail to pen further charge, like to basically getting bail ready to go to trial, because we was all very young at the time. So we got remanded initially because of the seriousness of the offence, but after a while we got like released on bail. But then what happened was my charges and a friend's charge, and I think one of my cousins, maybe, all our charges got dropped because there was not enough evidence to produce for the trial. But the others, they all went to prison and got convicted. Some of them didn't even do nothing. And they had to stay in jail because of the joint enterprise situation.
So how long were you in jail the first time?
I was just in jail there for a few months, about 2 months at that stage for that one.
And what's going through your head as a 15? I mean, I assume that in the beginning when you do this stuff, you know it's wrong, but you never really think that you're going to end up in jail?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't wait up like that at that age because I was already very dysfunctional by then. Okay. And for me, going to prison, I didn't miss anybody. Like a lot of people, when they go to prison, they miss their mom, they miss their dad, they miss their brother, they miss the family that they grew up with.
Yeah.
I didn't miss that. In fact, my cousins was all there with me,
right,
and friends, and I was in bravado at that stage, you get me? So at the end of the day, I always knew I'd go to prison because I was living that particular way. I knew prison was always going to be there. My uncles had been to prison, my dad had been to prison, all the family members had been to prison. So therefore, I knew I was going to go to prison. I just didn't know when. So when I was there, it was more like, for my mind, it's more like I'm here now, and I told you I've got that survival mentality. I'm going to survive whatever it is. So for me, it was more like I've been to prison now. That's it. It didn't really affect me like that. Although I seen, when I was in there, because at the time we had like a little crew, not a gang, but it was a crew, it's called the Diffusion Crew. And at the time, Wolverhampton and Birmingham used to bully Wolverhampton, man. Like, they used to really terrorize them. So when you go to this prison, it was local in Wolverhampton, but it had a lot of Birmingham people in there. And they used to bully all the Wolverhampton mans in there. But obviously when I went in there, they couldn't do that to me because I'm not that kind of person. So again, all that done here is just put kudos to my name, and also like reaffirm to me in my own head that I am a survivor and I will get through whatever it is that I go through.
Were you in some kind of twisted way kind of proud of being in prison? Was that some kind of
Yeah, I would
at the
say at
time?
yeah, I would say at that stage, yeah, you will go into prison with a badge of honor, especially if you could come out here and say, yo, no man could do me nothing when I was in there. Because what happens is your name goes from road to prison, and when you're in prison, if you get exposed in prison in a certain way or this and that happens to you, that quickly gets sent back out to the streets. But what got sent out to the streets is that couldn't happen to me. So when I come back out again, I've got more influence around my social circle because I'm very young. I've been to prison. I've gone past this adversity, what you're facing there, and I'm still getting the same kind of ratings, basically. So that was like more like a badge of honor at that age, I would say.
So you get out of prison, and then how are you? Are your parents still supporting you at this time? Are you making money on the
Uh,
side? What are you doing?
no, by that. So that was just that. I was about not too long, 15. So about when I come out of prison, then I think I came out of prison around about the June, and by yeah, I think just before June, because just before 16, I got a flat. I ended up getting my own flat at the age of 16. Well, it was 1 month before I was 16, because it was like a project going on in a local area called Blakenhall. And loads of us had flats in there, like loads of different young people had flats in there. But as you can imagine, by having a flat as a 16-year-old, you've opened up the floodgates for all the other delinquent people that are like you to come to your house, in it, because this is the place where we're all going to chill now, yeah?
Yeah.
Because it's the only place you've got free reign with no rules. And obviously at that stage, I'm smoking weed, and I have to make more money at that stage because I kind of live on my own. I have to support myself. But them ages is where I started to like at my house. Everyone would come to my house, and all of us was like involved in petty crime at the time, like robberies and pulling bags and stuff like that because we was young. But what people used to do is look out the window and see something that they could go and rob and steal, run downstairs, run out and go and rob it, steal it, and run back to the house. And it used to look like I was sending them out there to do that, but I wasn't. I was never doing that because I've never been a kind of bully person. I've never been a bully. I've never been a person to force you to do nothing like that. So, but to the outside people, it looked like I'm sending these like from out there upstairs to go down there and do these robberies or rob places, and I would sell the stuff for them because I was like a rated person. I could deal with older people than me. Older people than me had respect for me, so I could engage with them to sell the things for us, as opposed to my younger friends or friends that don't got as much ratings. They'd get probably manipulated or robbed by them for those things. So that kind of made me look like I was like a Fagin kind of person, but really I was never that. And everyone who knows me knows I wasn't that. It's just people outside of it that would think that.
So the main source of income at the time was the guys going out making stuff and then you selling it on like the black market, so to say, on the side.
And then I started to sell drugs as well because my dad, like I said, was a drug addict. Yeah, so it became like really easy for me to sell drugs. Huh?
That's so messed up because then you kind of you grow up in that culture and that life, and then you see the people that are buying. What was he selling drugs as well, or was he using?
No. My dad was just always using drugs. Like he was always have a prostitute woman. He'd always have a woman that was a prostitute, so that was always able to get money, basically. Yeah. So I used to sell drugs to my dad, but that wasn't very successful, you see, because he'd bring people to me all the time, and that, but he would emotionally blackmail me all the time. My dad would emotionally blackmail me into giving him the drugs, and then when he got to the stage where I was strong enough to hold him back emotionally, he would send the partner, the women. The women would get at me. They would come at me crying. They would come at me with all kinds of stories. And I'm a very emotional person because I've been through a lot, but I just like kind of tried to hold it. And it messed me up a lot because I would always give it to my dad because genuinely I felt sorry for him. So it was a weird place to be. Like I'm selling drugs to my dad, but it was really messing up my head because he's my dad. And it got to the stage where I couldn't really do it for long because I used to feel guilty. But what I did is I stepped up in drugs, like kind of things, and would more like sell to my friends then. So it's like in my brain, I could kind of justify doing it because I was selling it to my friends and they're more going out and doing it to the people.
So what was interesting that you said was you were kind of distancing yourself from the actual person that's getting the drugs. So you were selling to your friends who were not using, but then they were selling it to So
Yeah,
in your
yeah,
head,
yeah.
you felt bad and you
Offset
were
the
trying to
guilt.
distance yourself from that.
Yeah, I tried to offset the guilt all the time from a young age. Same as I gave all the money away as well. Like, so I made money, but I paid for everything for all my people around me. Like, so I would give it away. Like, people would pay £1,000 or £500 to buy a new jacket or top. I would never do that, but I'd give you £500 so you could go and buy a jacket for yourself because that's what you care about. I think the lucky thing with me as well, when I look on reflection, because my mum gave me so much material things when I was young, I actually had a distaste for them. I didn't really care about anything material. In fact, I didn't care one ounce about it. I would have a brand new thing and mash it up today and think nothing of it because those things reminded me of my mum's attempt to give me love, and that just wasn't love. So I think I've been lucky when I look at a lot of my other friends and other people, they're really controlled by materialism where I'm not. So no one's ever been able to manipulate or control me through materialism. And I also was a prisoner to it. And I think that's what's helped where when it comes to turning myself away from the streets is because I don't care about materialism like that. Don't get me wrong, I have nice things and stuff, but they don't define me and they never have. Where a lot of people are defined by their materials.
But at the time, you were just doing this out of instinct. You didn't really realize what's. Mhm.
Yeah, there's no difference. There wasn't an alternative option. I did try, so I can say I tried. When I was 16, I went onto this thing called a YTS scheme, and you go and do work, and it's called a youth training scheme. I went and done 35 hours at soccer sports, and they gave me £35 for the week. And when they give me £35 for the week, remember I'm 16 and I live on my own. Do not get me wrong, you could get more with £35 then than you can get now. But still, that completely broke me. It disheartened me completely from the legitimate world when that happened because I felt as though I'd been totally taken advantage of. I just spent a whole week with you and you give me £35 and I did the same work as the other people that was in the shop getting paid a normal wage. So my brain couldn't understand the exchange. And from there, that was it. I was never going to work ever again. Like I just wouldn't.
And then what did you do?
I was selling drugs, and basically from that age of 16, I kept going to prison. So I got locked up again when I was 16. Not too long after that, I was in a trap house, let's call it at the time, and police come raiding it. Obviously, everything got thrown everywhere. I got remanded into custody and had to wait to go to trial, but got found not guilty. Again, I come out and I thought I was really clever because I used to think I was smart because I'm getting off my actual charges. So from the age of 15 to 19, I ended up going to prison 4 more times. So I was 5 times before I was 19, always for drugs, being involved in drug dealing. And what I was doing, I always thought I had a way to basically diminish my responsibility to get around it from it. But really, I was just lucky at the time. It was anything to do with what I was doing. I was just lucky. But then when I was 19, I stabbed somebody else again in a nightclub in front of everybody and just on camera and all that kind of stuff. So
This was the
I got
incident
locked up for that.
when you said that you saw someone that was bigger than you were intimidated by them, and then just because you had a knife on you, you thought, okay, I can handle myself. And if you didn't have the knife at the time, you would have probably walked away or you wouldn't have engaged.
Of course, I would have evaded the whole situation because what it is, it's a survival mentality. So in my brain, when I first came across him, I felt intimidated by him. Yeah. And he kept staring at me. And what I did first was initially, I thought, you know what, I'm not going to rise to this occasion. But then he kept doing it. And then I started to feel embarrassed. I think the embarrassment is the one that triggered me more so because I started to worry about what my social group are thinking. I started thinking, what are they thinking? And once I started thinking that, I did actually try to move a different way just to like kind of get out of the eyesight of each other, yeah? But then he come and bounced into me. And as he's done that, I just felt extremely vulnerable and angry. And then I kind of I remember I have my knife. So how am I making this person handle me like that? He can't. And that's it. Mind changes, go into a different mode completely, and end up stabbing him.
Did you feel anything when you did you have any did you have fear of ending this person's life?
No.
Or was it
No,
just to you, he's going to survive, or what did you think at the time?
I can honestly say, from my perspective, and I've asked people this a lot now, who've also shot people and done the kind of things that I've done. I've asked them, when we do what we're doing at that stage, especially if you're emotionally defunct, basically, you're dysfunctional emotionally, yeah? When you're doing what you do, you just do it. It's just an act. You know, like you're not even really thinking about the person. You're angry about how you feel inside yourself. It's more like you're letting out your anger. And unfortunately, that's the person who's getting the brunt of it, because you don't associate death, because you don't know people who have died yet. Do you know what I'm saying? So you don't associate that the knife to killing someone. Same as shooting somebody. You don't associate the shooting the gun to them dying directly first of all. Yeah, it's because you've just done the act. You're just angry. You've just let out what you're doing, and the consequential thinking comes after. Like, so when I ran out of that club, and I'm thinking, damn, everybody knows I've done that. Everybody just seen me do that. I've just run out of this club. And then that's when you're thinking, well, that's it. I'm definitely going to prison. Now, that can do one of two things to you. That can make you actually go on a bit more crazy and go and do some stupid stuff because you're thinking I'm finished anyway. Or you go into a hiding situation, trying to hide to avoid capture. That's when you start to think consequential. You don't think consequential when it's happening because you don't have the emotional intelligence to do that. You don't have the emotional intelligence to stop yourself from being angry, embarrassed, or violated to think about consequential impact. It's not possible.
And the cops got onto you soon after
Yeah,
that.
yeah, straight. Like within a few days, I was locked back up because I cut my hand open as well. So like in the incident, my whole hand had cut right open. So they knew that was cut open, and they just knew it was me. So they was just looking for me at different places, and I kind of went to go and visit my dad in prison because he was at the time. My dad was in prison doing an 11-year sentence, and I was the only support for him. So imagine, as much as my dad didn't do nothing for me, I've always supported my dad and my mum. But my dad was in prison, so I went there and they locked me in there. So I was under in a visit, and then I couldn't get out of the prison.
Oh, that's...
That was stupid of me. That's what I know. I don't know who goes to a prison when he looks for by people from the police.
But at the time you're 19, so you're not even
19.
juvenile anymore, so they'll charge you for proper...
No, you're still classed as a young offender, though. So up until the age of 21, you're still classed as a young offender. So although I was 19, I was still a young offender when I got charged, but I did get a kind of high sentence for that. And at that time, people were getting like 3 years, maybe 4 at the most. I got 6 years for Section 18 then.
But this was the crime of the stabbing. The person didn't die, so it wasn't...
No, it didn't die. It's called Section 18. It's called wounding with intent. It's like one charge down from attempted murder. Oh. And yet they gave me 6 years for that.
And at the time, you already had a son.
Yes, I had my first son just then. Like, I had my son at 19. So he was born in the September. And say this happened in the May or June. May, I think it was. And
at the time when they told you you're getting 6 years, did you even think about the fact that you had a son or a family or something like this? Or...
I broke down crying that time. I didn't cry first. What happened was when I got the sentence, I went downstairs. You can go downstairs and like your mum can come through and stuff. So my girlfriend at the time, my son's mum, she came through and she just looked at me and she broke down crying. She said, "What are we going to do for the next 3 years?" Well, 6 years, she said, but because she didn't know what I had to do half. And when she cried that I just cried with her because that's when I realized that look what's going to happen. They're going to be without me.
But I still relying on you on the outside.
Yeah, but I didn't really understand it like that. But I felt her pain. So I was all crying, probably a little bit for myself, but it was her. It was looking at her with that lost look of like, what am I and what are we supposed to do for this time? That stuck with me.
And in prison, did you keep going with the crew that you were rolling with, or
yeah, so basically when I was in prison then you realize that your friends don't really visit you, they don't send you money, don't do all this kind of stuff, but I'm still stuck in that kind of mentality, and so I'm in prison, I'm getting hold of phones, I'm getting hold of drugs and weed, and that time it was just smoking bare weed and just doing what I want to do. I wasn't fazed as much by being locked up because I'm a lonely person. Like I've always been isolated. So prison didn't really affect me in that kind of way at that stage.
But you talked about how you went a little bit overboard with like publicizing the stuff that you were doing in prison, and then it got out, word got out, and then you...
Yeah, but that was later on. That was in my other sentence later on when I started to change a bit more. In that sense, I tried to change. So when I was doing that sentence, I got about a year into it, and I realized that you have to go for parole and stuff.
Yeah.
And kind of like, I went on the phone one day and I spoke to my son's mom, and she was like, yo, my son needs some stuff. He needs this, he needs that. And I couldn't provide for it at the time because I didn't have no money like that. When I was saying getting drugs in there, I was getting drugs to sell, I was getting drugs to just smoke weed and just make my time easier at that time. So I wasn't really generating any kind of money or nothing like that. I was just trying to get through my sentence. But she said to me, man, she said, look, man, you promised, Gary, that it wouldn't be like this. You said that it's going to be better. She started reminding me of all the promises I used to make to her, like what we would do and this and that, how much of a good dad I'm going to be, because I always wanted to be a good dad. And she just showed me that I'm a waste man, basically, at that time, because I'm just in jail and I'm worse than my own parents because my dad's a drug addict and my mum's an alcoholic. That's their reasons, in it, for what they've done. What reasons have I got? I wanted to show off. I wanted to be a bad man. That's all I had to offer, and I was ashamed of myself.
Were you dabbling in, apart from weed and things like that, were you dabbling in other drugs and alcohol?
No,
You weren't addicted
no,
to...
no. Nah, I've never really taken drugs. I've tried cocaine at stage. It doesn't really do nothing to me. I took MDMA. That was more like a party drug. So when you go out, you party and stuff like that. But for me, to be fair, I'm not really a drug type of person. I'm more like, in my head, because my dad's a drug addict and because my mum was an alcoholic, I've always had this protection in my brain that says to me that I cannot be like them. Remember, I had this thing from a young age that they ain't even my parents. So things that made me think that about them, I could never replicate that. So I couldn't beat my children. I couldn't do the thing. I can't expose anything that they did to me that I feel that is not right. I could not grow up and do that to my children because I fundamentally built the way I am on the basis that I'm not them. So you see, that's again another protection thing that happened to me from a young age, which again I attributed to God.
And after this sentence is when you said that the whole scene kind of changed in Wolverhampton with the guns and the gangs and...
Yeah, so when I was in there, that was so I went there around about 2001. I got locked up, convicted, yeah. So from 2001, I was there till 2004. And throughout that time, Wolverhampton's changing. Everyone's getting all their guns. Everyone's shooting people. People are upping their game in street activity. And like I said, I was in prison, paranoid, hearing all these things, yeah, what's happening outside, thinking, yo, when I get out, man can't do that to me. Remember, I had this mentality, I'm a survivor. So it's almost as if I've got myself into this mindset thinking that people are going to try and do this to me. So I'm already ready. I literally trained myself to come across any battle that was going to come, because it was going to come, because that was the lifestyle that I lived.
But did you, when you got out, even though you had that mentality, did you have... were you afraid of going back to prison? Did you not want to go back to prison? Because now you've kind of realized that your son needs you and that your girl needs you.
It fell out. It fell off. As soon as I got out, that left my head. Because what it was, again, I didn't have the emotional intelligence, to understand what it is that I truly am trying to do and what I don't want to do. What I had was the good heart. So I've always had a good nature. I'm a kind-hearted person. Anyone who knows me knows this. So that kind of had me a bit confused, I would believe, because I've got a good nature. That means my day-to-day thought process is good. I think good things all day long in general, but I had a switch in me that if I felt vulnerable or if I felt like I had to attack something, I would do that. But it wasn't like a fit of anger or nothing. It was a process. I had to do it in order to protect myself or to get where I need to get to. So it's like, I thought that was, I didn't give enough attention to that part of myself because I used to think it was a part that protected me. But obviously, when you get out and you realize now that that part of you isn't there to protect you, it's your ego. It's your ego that will either send you the wrong way or the right way. And what it was preparing me for war, basically. That's what it kind of done. And it wasn't really a war out here. So it's almost as if a part of me is waiting for something to happen so that I can prove to myself and prove to everybody out there that you can't do that to me. So it's like thinking about jail was definitely not part of my process. Even though I've just come out, even though I want to be a good dad, even though I want to do all these things, it left me.
So I think what you talked about when you were a kid, when you were outside and you said you had that voice come out to you, and then you said you were going to survive. I feel like it's sort of that mentality that you just kept on with. It's that threat of not being able to survive. The second you get threatened in that area, you just explode. And
That was it. That's me. So what it is with me, yeah. Some of my friends used to say, "Yo, it's got Jibo. How do you do that? Like when you're scared, like how do you like go like at it like that?" They say because when I get threatened, I feel like I can't like manage with that situation. It intimidates me. I says my biggest fear is to be intimidated. So the second I feel a perceived threat or intimidation, I'm about to take it over because I can't live in fear. My biggest fear is being scared. My mum used to beat me. My mum used to hit me and I could never hit her back. So imagine what that used to do to me mentally as a child. Yeah. Somebody I love and care about is actually causing me the most harm in the whole wide world. And I can't actually fight her back. I can't hit her back because my moral code inside me wouldn't allow me to do that. Some other people might do, but my moral code couldn't. So that idea of somebody having me feeling like that, it couldn't happen. It was a no-go.
is your mother, are your mother and your father still alive?
My mum passed away in 2021.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Me and my mum made up. Me and my mum really had some close heart-to-heart, real conversations just before she passed away. She was actually living with me. She came to live from Sheffield, come and stay with me, just before the Christmas of 2020. And we talked a lot because I explained to my mum that I need to talk about my experiences like via these kind of platforms. And I says, but I don't want to embarrass her because I love my mum. She struggled. And so she wasn't as strong as she needed to be, but she understood that and she tried her best to make a difference when she understood. So me and my mum had a really powerful time before she passed away. So I feel free to be able to talk about what I talk about without like harming her memory.
I just want to thank you for talking about this kind of stuff right now. I know I can't imagine how hard it must be, but I think it's important that people, because a lot of people have this kind of, maybe not to this extreme, but this kind of relationship with their parents when their parents hurt them in indirect ways, and then you grow up with such resentment for your family. And I just wanted to ask, when did you have love for your mother the whole time, or was there a point where you realized she was a product of her life, and then you had to end the cycle and you had to kind of forgive instead of because it's so hard to let go of that because you distance
and
yourself.
that's something I want people to understand. So I'll cover that with my mum first. Yeah. So I always love my mum because I'm a loving person. But when I was younger, I didn't understand why my mum was the way that she was. But as I grew older, I became more compassionate because I came across other people who were living lifestyles like mine, similar. And I started to see the pattern. No one wanted to do this to their child. No one wanted to be this messed up. They fell victim to life. Life battered them and they wasn't strong enough to get past it. And then back to like what you're saying, I'm lucky. I never had resentment. I've never had hate, and I've never held on to these things. I was just frustrated with my mum. And what I didn't like with my mum was where she was trying to take credit for anything good that I would do. That was my issue with my mum because I don't think she deserved that.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think she deserved to claim anything to do with any of my good natured traits. Yeah, when she contributed to so many of my bad ones. So that was my issue. Yeah, but at the same time, as I started to grow older, my mum would start do anything. If I asked my mum to help me, actually, this is what happened. My mum broke down to me one day, and when she did, I explained to her, I said, "You can't be a mum to me anymore. When I needed to be a mum, you couldn't do it." I said, "But I've got a kid now." So I had one child at a time. So if you be a good grandma to my children, then I will forgive you for all that happened. That's the way for my forgiveness. And my mum did that. And as she did that, yeah, and I kept seeing my kids, like, remember I kept going to prison, but my kids kept going to my mum's. They'd go and stay at my mum's for the 6 weeks holiday. They would go there and this. She sent me pictures, and my mum was happy. And my mum never hit my sister. My sister was younger than me, like 8 years. So she never did the same things with my sister. She stopped all that kind of lifestyle, all that kind of stuff, but she was just broken from it all. But she tried her best. And I kept saying to people, I'm lucky because I wasn't angry and resentment. I now get to experience a relationship with my mum. because I can't have a relationship with anyone else that you have like with your mum. And it's the same thing with my dad. My dad's a drug addict, and still now he's still a drug addict. But we sit there, and my dad's got 9 kids, and all the other kids don't really talk to my dad. They've all got their rightfully slow issues about his lack of responsibility, but they miss out all the time. The interactions I have with my dad on a basis, just talking to each other, cooks me food, and we sit there and we talk. And now he starts to reveal what happened in his head, why he messed up, what messed all him up. And he also reveals how much he's hurting, how much it impacts on him. And I'm grateful that I get to hear that. I'm grateful that I get to see him now trying to make a change. I'm grateful that my mum and me got to talk, yeah, and we resolved it, because if my mum had died and we didn't resolve this, I would have been broken, because my mum tried her best to make amends, but I was very still like caught up in my emotions when she was alive, that I didn't really see it as much as I could have. So if I didn't get the opportunity to express my love and my forgiveness and all those things to my mum when she was alive, I would have been left in a bad place right now, because I would have thought she died and didn't know that I had forgiven her and that I had understood it all, and that I don't blame her for nothing. So like now, at least they both know that it's not their fault per se. It's life. Life is difficult, and not everybody has the mental strength to get through the things they go through. So instead of me being angry at them, I'm very like forgiving and just really happy that I had the resilience to get through that and break that with my own kids, because me and all my kids are good. We broke that cycle. My family members that I felt might have let me down when I was young have now come through for me as I've got older, and we've all been able to heal like kind of rifts and stuff. So I think that's a very powerful thing that people need to understand, that forgiveness kind of is everything.
That's incredibly powerful, man. I don't know, because the experiences that you went through helped you realize this, but then I feel like innately you already have this kind of forgiving nature about you, which
Yeah,
because it's so hard to come out of that resentment, because a lot of people, even when it's not so extreme as it was for you, people have this resentment towards their families, and then it's so hard to come out of it, because you're the victim. You say, hey, you didn't give me anything, you only got in my
yeah,
way, and I made something out of it, and you don't deserve credit for it, because I came out of
yeah,
nothing, I didn't come out of help or whatever. And you want to have that role, but then if you forgive, then you lose that role. You sort of say, I understand that there was no other way for you to behave as opposed to the way you did behave, and then I forgive you, and then you had a role to play in who I became. You kind of have to accept that.
yeah, man. And
Give it
that's what
up.
it is. I would, like, people say to you, would you change your life? No, I wouldn't. I'd go through it all again. And the reason why is because I love me. I love the person I am. I love the relationships that I build with the people that surround me. And I believe that anyone who has a personal relationship with me would say that. They would say that these gifts that I have, they're inside me. They're innately there. And like I said, without my parents being the way they were, I might not have been mentally prepared for the kind of things that knocked them off, because I was always going to have a difficult life because of the dynamics I was born into. I'm mixed race. I'm half black, half white. And at the time I was born, there was no place for mixed race people. Still hardly a mixed place for mixed race people in today's time, because we have no culture. We have no true heritage. We started a few hundred years ago kind of thing, and then you either get pushed into one culture, i.e. your black side, your white side, or if you're half Asian, half whatever it is, you kind of get isolated into one area of your culture. But really, as an individual, I'm both of you. So I'm black and I'm white, regardless of what society wants to say to me. Inside me, I have both of those things. And growing up, where you just really confused at that stage in them times.
You have 2 kids now?
I've got 7 kids now.
Oh, so it was the son at 19, and then you had a daughter?
Yeah, and I had a daughter. Then I had another son. Then I had another daughter and a son again, and twins. So I've got 5 boys and 2 girls.
Well played. And
So then those family dynamics should hopefully be totally different. Well, so far so good, and hopefully the future is gonna have a lot better things in it due to this.
So what kind of relationship do you want to have with your kids? What do you want to pass on from what the life that you lived?
I want to teach them about, first of all, understanding and emotional intelligence. So that's the main thing what I teach my children is about understanding emotional intelligence, and also give them the strength and confidence to always ask questions instead of just leave it into your own thought process. So I build my children up to understand that if something doesn't feel right, ask questions about it in order to get it, confirmed to you what it is that you're feeling, or try and find out the support that you need for what you're feeling. Because if you allow your own mind to fill in the gaps with your limited experiences, you'll fill it up with the wrong things. That is usually a consequence. So what I want from my children is to look at me and look at what I got through, what adversities I went through, and see what skills I used to get through that. And I want to pass that on to them so that they, because there's 7 of them, I want them to have the same kind of heart that I've got, so that they pass on this same thing that I've done to many people that I come across. Because I share my heart, I share my emotions with people, because I know that a lot of people struggle with that. And this is what we really need to deal with in order to have a better life, especially if we've had a dysfunctional one. We need to manage our emotions. So I would just want my children to take from me is the care and loving nature that I've had, and just go on with it and spread it more, basically.
That's powerful, man. And I'm not really too aware of how things are in the UK right now, but knife crime has been a topic of discussion for the longest time, and you're working to help against that kind of stuff right now. You're helping
Yeah,
with youth counseling and anti-knife defense and all that stuff.
yeah. So
What do you think? What do you think is the problem with? I mean, why do you think it's such a huge problem right now in the UK, and how can we get out of that?
like I said, when I was young and I've stabbed people or I've been involved in those kind of things, I didn't attach the act of what I did to the actual physicality of what's happening. And society who don't live those type of lifestyles struggle to understand how a person can't do that. How does this person not know what he's doing when he's gone and got a big knife? He went out into the streets and he stabbed someone. Of course, you know what you're doing. That's how people think, But a young person now, this is what I believe, is this. When I was young, I grew up watching playing Mario Karts, Hulk Hogan, Sonic the Hedgehog. The games we used to play were actual games, So then when we did get involved in knife crime and stuff like that, it didn't seem so much like a game. It seemed like real life. You know what I'm saying? So you stab someone in something, but you don't know what that looks like, but you just know it wasn't a game. So although you'd be involved in it, you'd have some kind of level of restriction because you knew that it wasn't normal behavior. This is taboo. This is like different stuff. You get me, But then what's happening with these young kids of today, they grow up playing games where you stab and shoot people from the second they're like 3 and 4. And that's what's happening. Like, it really looks physical, like how it does, like in real life. So I believe that once they get to a certain age and they live in broken cities and broken areas, or even exposed to certain music, they actually don't make the connection between walking around with that knife, and rapping like I'm going to do this and do that, to actual real life. So they're just doing it and not realizing that what they're doing is messing up their own life or the people's lives. It's become a cultural way of even interacting, to speaking. Yo, shut up before I shank you. Like, people say that as a joke. Like, so kids are in friendship groups talking to each other like this, but not meaning that. But they're saying the words and not understanding that words are spells. So when you say something to somebody too many times, it has this magical impact on you, and it becomes reality. And that's what's happening. So because it's so much on all the songs, like we've got trap music and drill music. Trap music and drill music comes because the industry who pushes it want it. So what they're saying is these rappers who are coming through, they could be really talented, but they're not getting the limelight because they're not talking about stabbing man, twisting a knife in, and they're not getting the limelight that they need. So they're thinking, well, I want to be a rapper, I want to be successful, I've got talent. So what they do is they alter their lyrics to fit in with the narrative. Then they put that narrative in there and they're putting a spell on their own head, and they're putting a spell on the people's heads who listen to the music. And then that's what's happening. People are coming out here and they're just doing it because it's really, really bad. In Wolverhampton over the last year, I think there's been 4 or 5 murders of teenagers.
And it's just to maintain that kind of image and just to prove to someone when it's so unnecessary. People might not even have to, like, it's not about doing something to make some money to survive. It's just to prove
No,
something, right?
it's just proof. Yeah, but and like sometimes it could be not even to do that. A kid can do it out of embarrassment. So just think, yeah, you go into school. Say for instance, it's really difficult because we've got this rule of no snitching, yeah, which has been around for as long as you can remember. But it come around when it said no children and no women at the same time. So, but somehow it doesn't matter if it's a woman, doesn't matter if it's a children, still can't be snitching. So what's happening is young kids are growing up seeing things happening out on the street and feeling a bit intimidated. That's the usual excuse for carrying a knife. I feel a bit worried, I need it for protection. So they're coming out of the house with a knife for protection, yeah? But imagine you're rolling around with 5 friends and one of the friends, or all 5 friends know that one of you's got a knife because you showed it them. Oh, look at this, I bought this at my house. Like, okay. Now, any one of those 5 friends, not the one with the knife, will go and cause an argument and cause trouble with someone. What do you do now? You have to pull out this knife, don't you? Because if you don't, your own social group and friends are going to switch on you later. So out of embarrassment or out of fear of not looking good in front of them, you pulled out this knife. Even if you didn't stab someone with it, you now created a situation for yourself because there was 5 men there, but it was you that pulled out the knife. And you don't even really be like this, but now there's 5 people looking for you now because you pulled out a knife the other day. But he can't go around and say, I'm scared, these men are after me, what am I going to do? Now, so you're see, man, I'll shank man, innit? That's what he'll say loud, but at home he's thinking, oh my God, I hope I don't see these men. But he can't say that out loud to his friends. Imagine that. Imagine being that. So they're as vulnerable as me when I was being hit by my mum and I couldn't do nothing about it. They're in a social circle that they find themselves in a situation that they don't think they can do anything about it because they don't want to get called a snitch, they don't want to get pushed out of their social group, and they don't now want to be left alone after just pulled out a knife for this social group on another social group. So you see, you get trapped in it, and because they're not emotionally aware of all these different dots and what it is, there need to be more people like myself who's prepared to tell the truth and explain the consequences of life. Because in my mentoring, because I'm a mentor now for 14 to 18-year-olds, I don't tell young people, don't do this, don't do that, because who am I to tell them not to do stuff when I don't know what they've been through directly? But what I do instead is say stuff like this to them. Most of the kids I work with are from 14 to 18. So what I'd say to them is, if you've got beef on road or whatever it is, you lot all run around with big knives in it. He said, yeah, big swords, big ZKs and all this. He's like, yeah. They get gassed up. I go, yeah. I said, all right then. Imagine you went home today, yeah, and your mum's got a new boyfriend. And he goes, yeah. And I says, and you just found out he's just come out of prison for killing a kid. Do you want him in your house? Like, no. I said, well, what'd you do to get him out of the house? Yo, I would do this, I would do that. I said, rah, for real? I said, yeah, of course I won't be no killer in my house, child killer in my house. He goes, okay, cool. So if you've got a business now and your business is successful and some person comes for a nice new job, yeah, and you find out they've just come out of prison for killing a child, are you going to give them a job? They're like, no, of course I wouldn't. I say, rah. I say, the people you argue with, how old are they? Are they roughly your age? Like, yeah, man, they're minute. Like, I'd say, so, okay then. When you try to stab someone with that big knife that you've got there, be honest. Are you trying to kill them or you're hoping that they don't get hurt too bad? They'll say, I hope they don't get hurt too bad. You get what I'm trying to say? I say, okay then. Do you know if you accidentally kill somebody, because there's no safe place to stab someone, yeah? Do you know what this means you're going to become? What are you going to become? A child killer. Is that who you are? Is that what you want? And every child will tell you no. And then I say to them, I say, imagine this, you're only 15, 16 or 17. I said, be honest. You know, if your brethren, right, got locked up for murdering somebody else's child, yeah, is your mum going to take a day off work to take you to go and visit that person in prison? No. Is any of your family members going to take a whole day off work out of their life so that they could take you to go and visit another person who's killed somebody's child? We're like, nah. I say, imagine that. I said, if you got a friend, yeah, that can send you £25 every week, right now, guaranteed, you know it can, for the next 15 years. No. I'm saying, so talk to me, man. I'm saying, so not only would you stab a man for a friend that won't visit you, can't send you no money, you will stab a man knowing, yeah, that you might become a child killer that you wouldn't even want in your own house, you wouldn't want in your own business, you wouldn't want in your own life. I said, explain to me where any of this makes sense. And they'll be like, yo, you make man have to deep it differently. You make man have to think different because you're never telling us what to do or not to do. You're telling us what it looks like with the things that we're doing. It's the same as I say to them, I say, bro, you all want to be top shotters though, yeah? They're like, yeah, man. I say, okay, be real. If one of your elders, look, you're on a mentoring session with me now because you want to do better in it. They're like, yeah. I said, but be honest. If one of your elders who you look up to right now, after this session, called you and says, yo, I know where there's two little 16-year-old kids, yeah, and they're making $3,000 a week, $4,000 a week, yeah, we're going to go rob them. I'm going to give you the thing and we're going to run up on them. Be honest, would you go? Of course, standing and run up on them. I'd say, do you understand how old you are? You're 15 and 16 and you think you want to be a drug dealer? Well, if you be successful in any kind of anybody's eyes, what's going to happen? Who's going to come for you? What are you going to do? Kill someone to defend yourself? For what? How much is worth defending yourself to death for? £100, £1,000, £10,000? Tell me, what is your price to go to prison for life? And they're like, no price. I'm saying, so explain to me where it makes sense. And this is how I talk to them. And I leave it open.
That's powerful, man, because when you let them realize that they're just, because what they're doing to someone else is just gonna add them to the cycle so that they can get done by someone else.
This is it. There's no there's no happy bad man. There's no happy bad man out here. They don't exist. It's not a real thing. You get me? Like, this is what happens. You can gain monetary value from the streets. Let's get it right. Yeah, you can be involved in stuff and you can gain money and you can gain a reputation, because they're the only two things that you gain from the streets, because then you go and use that money or that reputation for something different. But what you don't understand is, yeah, in order to get that money, yeah, you've got people who predominantly focus on taking money from people like you. That's what they do. So that means in order for you to have that money and protect it, you're going to have to be responsible for some harm to people. People you know and love and care about are going to end up in prison because they would have not snitched on you because they found things that got found. For you to be successful, other people are going to have to suffer, and it's going to be people that's close to you that will suffer. So let's just say all this sufferation takes place, yeah, and yeah, you've got $100,000 or you got $500,000, but now you can't even live in your area. You can't live where you come from. Wow, is that a winner? Have you won? You can't be where your family is. Like, are you a winner? Because now you've got 5 family members in prison being abused, end up on drugs because they couldn't handle their sentence, or they end up getting bullied and mashed up because they're linked to you. Yeah? Are you a winner? Is that what you say winning is? Like, you can't win. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? When they say crime don't pay, people get it confused. They're thinking, oh, of course crime pays, because obviously you can go and get crime and make money. But when you weigh up what it costs, this is what they mean it don't pay. Because the reality is this: to be a successful drug dealer, you're going to be a successful abuser and harmer to people that you care about. Simple. That is the price you pay. And if that's who you want to be, I'm not here to judge you. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm here to show you what you're going to be judged on. And I'm here to you to make your own decision. Just like I did. You get me? When I was young, I ran around with guns. I done all this kind of stuff, yeah. And I was this supposed bad man. I did all of that because I was confused at the time, yeah. I believed that was the only way, or the way, to get to a better lifestyle than what I had. When I realized that that wasn't the way, and I've contributed to so many other people's mentality to be like that, I'm ashamed. I'll be honest. I don't want that on my back. Like, people come up to me and have said to me, like, I wanted to be like you, Jibo. Oh, I want to have my hair cut like you want to do this. But that isn't who I was. I never really was that person. That's why it was probably easier for me to leave when I decided to leave, because I never really wanted to be a bad man. I just wanted to survive the situation, no matter what it was. That's all I really ever wanted to do. And then when I realized that I don't have to do those kind of things to survive my situation, I just have to think better, because I'm an adult now and I can be where I want to be or not where I want to be. So if I feel like I'm in threat somewhere, I'll actually leave. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I ain't trying to be the bad man and show you that the threat can't threaten me. You can't do that. Doesn't make no sense, because a threat is mental. It's not physical. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, a threat is the fear of something happening. So if I fear something's going to happen, I'm going to avoid the whole way so that don't take place, because it's fear that I'm dealing with. Because when I was coming out, first of all, people were saying to me, oh, Jibo, you look like you've calmed down now. Yeah, what if the youths try to move to you to get your stripes and stuff? I says, well, to try and do that, I'm going to fuck them up. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. That's what I used to say first, yeah. But then one day they said it to me, I said, well, If someone's going to move to me because they want stripes or they want something that I have, there's nothing in the world I can do to stop them from doing that. There really isn't nothing I can do to stop someone from what they want to do. But what I can do is I can react when it comes to that, not before. Where before I had this thing in my head, prevention's better than cure. So if I thought something was up, you better know I'm going to go and deal with that. But really, that's crazy behavior because it's you in your own head. Because if something's going to happen, it's going to happen. And once I started to think like that, my life became so much more simple. Like, so when I walk down the street, someone stares at me in a certain way, I look at them, but then I just look away. And the reason why I look away is because I know what he's thinking. He's thinking, who's that person? He's feeling insecure. So what he's doing is trying to make sure that I don't trouble him by giving off this exterior look of hardness. When really, if I just look the other way and go about my business, that's the end of that. Like, he's not going to touch me. Where before, I want to stare back. I want to make sure you know you can't do that to me. It's all stupid. You know what I'm saying? Because what do I win if this thing takes place between me and him? And so once I started to think like that, my life became really, really simple, really, really easy. I haven't had no issue. Since I've come out of prison, not one thing has happened. I haven't had to have no arguing, no fighting, no nothing. In fact, the people I used to beef with, we talk to each other. They're inspired by my ability to have changed myself, and I seem free. They all want to be free. Every single one of them wants to be free from the chains that they're mentally locked into. So a lot of people call me and they say, look, and say, G-Bo, Gary, you're inspiring, you know. Like, you make man want to, like, get into this and get into that. And they're even asking me, how do I get into your work? But what it is, they're not ready yet. They're getting ready because they're contemplating their own decisions, but they're still stuck. And therefore, you can't bring them into the world that I work in whilst they're still a bit stuck. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have the blind leading the blind. They've got all the good intentions in the world, but their behaviors and their mentality needs to fix first before they can try to guide another person in a better way. And that's what I'm trying to basically try to show people. That's why I want to do these kind of podcasts and stuff. I want to try and show people that, look, we have a lot to give. Us people who have been through a lot, if we can get through it, we have a lot to give because we understand things that it will be harder for a person who hasn't been to understand. You know, so we can help services deliver a better job. We may not be able to do the full service ourselves because we haven't got the necessary skills, but what we have is the skills to build a rapport. We have the skills to build understanding. We have the skills to show empathy so that a person allows us to get into their mind to understand what is affecting them, so then we can put in strategies to help. But that's what I'm kind of like on. That's my life path right now.
That's incredible stuff, man. And I'm so grateful that there are people like you that have the ability to express, because there's a lot of people that go through this kind of stuff and they come out the other side, but they don't have the ability to express in a visceral way what it's like, and to put someone in their shoes, to walk them through this, to have them realize that it's not for them.
Yes.
But you have that ability, and then you also come from a warm place, you have a good heart, and then people can recognize that. And everyone wants to be like a gangbanger or drug dealer, whatever. But then when you're in the life, you're always looking to get out, kind of. You're never at ease, you're never and everyone knows that. So when they see and you lead by example, and you see that, okay, life on the other side isn't that bad, it's more peaceful, you have a family, the good things that you get from this life is much better than the perceived good things from the other life. And then people get inspired by you in the right way, and they want to be like you know?
That's exactly what it is. Like I says, like, every person in Wolverhampton of my age group who is rated as a bad man or whatever it is, I speak to them, and we have a good rapport. And I know every single one of them wants better for their child. Not one of them wants their child out here being a bad man. Not one bad man that I know that was what we would say was a bad man has tried to encourage their kid to be that. Because when you really live that lifestyle, like, really, you do not want that for nobody. But you can't go out there telling everyone how frightened you are, how bad it is and all that, because you're in survival mode. But you do not want that for your loved ones. So that's why I think right now is the time for people like me and my age group and like a bit younger to really stand up and be loud and say that, look, not one of us would want our child to live like that. So between all of us, we need to develop a new strength of community morals, yeah, and things that us as a community are no longer going to accept as acceptable. This conversation needs to be had, yeah, and we need to pick a thing, just one thing that as a community we're saying any rule doesn't apply to that. So, argument's sake, a 10, 11, or 12-year-old, if he gets chased down the street by people with knives, no matter what age he is, that child should be able to go home and tell their parents what's just happened, yeah? And their parents should be able to call the police, yeah? And be supported by the community for doing that. Not pushed out or called snitches or this or that. Nah, because I'm saying no one with a rational mind before it's happened would say that it's acceptable for a 10, 11, or 12-year-old, even 13, to be chased, to be stabbed, to be run down the streets, to be absolutely scared for their life. And that's acceptable. Because when that actually happens, this is what happens to you as the receiving person, child that is. You either have to say, you know what? I'm not really meant for the streets. I've never been like that. But people are troubling my child, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the streets, and I'm going to do what street people do. Now, they're only going to lose in that mindset, aren't they? It's a fact. Or they can say, you know what, I can't snitch because I can't be involved in all of that because of... So then they have to sit there every day and think, I've let my child, be violated, hurt. The child got that scared and I'm not doing nothing about it. What do you think that does to them as a person? Demasculates them, dehumanizes them, all because they're scared of the community's reaction now. I'm saying that ain't right, man. You can't have a child, and someone tries to stab your child, like little kid, and you're scared to call the police so that retribution can be taken in the right way so that this don't happen. It's crazy that we as a community think that's okay, because it's not. And right now, it needs to change. Right now, some rules and some morals we need to be incorporated in our communities and saying we're not standing for these certain things that happen. You understand? Because if we don't, when's it going to stop? We're going to get 3-year-olds running around, 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds. What we're going to do? Like, something has to give, and the community is the people who have to give it, not the government, not the police, because clearly they don't live in the neighborhoods that we live in. We do. So we are the ones that need to start taking more responsibility. 100%. And hopefully we can.
Man, I don't want to take up any more of your time.
No problem.
You really got me thinking about a lot of things, because when you're not in that environment, but you just hear about things that are happening, but when you really understand that what's going on in that family unit, each society is just made up of a bunch of families, and then the bigger story is the story of that one family.
Should I give you something here? Like, so I've done like trauma-informed practices. So I'm trauma-informed, so I can deliver workshops around trauma. Now, when I did this training, you know what I found out on there? That 52% of England's population doesn't go through traumatic experiences. 48% do, have at least one or more. So let's just put that into perspective. What do you think the chances are that in all the professional bodies that we have, that the majority of people who work in there come from the 48% of trauma, or do you think they come from the 52% of no trauma? What do you think? I would say from the 52% of no trauma, because they're able to go to university, they're able to go to college, they're able to be supported through that, they're able to go learn, they don't have all these things that mashed up their brains, so we're basically up against it all. No. They had a good upbringing, they went through the system, and they learned academically what they need to learn, and then they're coming into a world now where all this trauma is going on. They don't have the necessary skills and understanding to apply what they've learned to the work that they do.
For sure.
So this is something that I found profound. I thought, wow. So what we have really is a service with people with good hearts, because it chose that business and it chose that work area to do good stuff, but they're unable to do a most effective job, not because they don't want to, because they don't have the experiences, what they need. So we need to have more of a connection between live life experience people who may not have the academic structures to pass certain courses and qualifications, but if there was like an adversary or a like an apprentice along with the support that that's there, their experiences can then add to those skills that the other ones have learned, and then they can develop really effective strategies that would work. for the people that come from these difficult homes, that feel detached from these kind of service providers who don't have the experience of their lifestyles that they've had. So I think that's something that needs to be done. There needs to be something created along that line as well, where a lot more utilization of lived life experience people can be used. So like you said, a lot of people don't have the ability to articulate the way that I can. That's been through so much. But if they've been through so much, when they're hearing certain things, they're able to then give to that person. And the person who can articulate could then take from what that person said and articulate it for them in a better way, basically, and use the skills that they're learning academically, which have been used through science.
100%. And then before I let you go, is there anything that you're working on right now, or anything that the people can come and support? Or
yeah, so I'm about to now open up a new business. It's going to be called the Brave Enterprise, and Brave stands for believe, rebuild, achieve with virtue and education. Be brave. Yeah, so what I'm going to predominantly be pushing my school workshops, what I do, and I'm also going to be doing limited spaces for mentoring because I have limited time. But what I want to do is connect with other people, like-minded, so that we can offer a wider service, because what I offer at the moment is only limited by myself because I am my actual service. But I know there's so much other people like me that have so much to give but don't know where to go, don't know how to start, or even who to link with in order to make this happen, or they might not have the confidence to believe in their own attributes that they have. I want people to believe in themselves and just start trying to connect to somebody. I'm always there.
It's beautiful, man. Thank you so much for your time. No,
No
and
problem.
it was a great experience talking to you. Hopefully, we can catch up again another time. I wish you all the best. I wish you great success, health, your family, your kids, everyone.
All right, thanks a lot. You too.
All right, man.
Wish you all the success as well. All right,
Thank
see you
you very
later.
much. Have a
Okay.
great day.
Yes!